Mindset, a daily dose of practical wit and wisdom with a professional educator and trainer, Amazon best-selling author, United States Marine, television and radio host, Paul G. Markle. Each episode will focus on positive and productive ways to strengthen your mindset and help you improve your relationships, career goals, and overall well-being. Please welcome your host, Paul G. Markle.
All right, let's kick this thing off. Welcome back to Morning Mindset. Thank you for taking the time to spend, well, just a portion of your day with me, whether it's early morning or evening or afternoon, or, that's the beauty of on-demand audio. You can listen anytime you want, and you can even go back and re-listen. You can share this with people, and I highly suggest that you do that. Now, if you guys would indulge me, I'm going to take a sip of my Sweet Marie's coffee. So good, Sweet Marie's, our local coffee shop. All right, let's talk about challenge and weakness. Challenge and weakness. Many of you who pay attention to the world around you, you may have seen the modern college-age children and high school-age children, and you wonder to yourself, how is it that these human beings, these high school kids, these these college-age humans, how did they get so weak? How did they get to the point where everything offends them? Where they need special, safe spaces to go and hide from the harsh realities of the world? How did we end up like this? Well, I'll tell you. If you know anything about muscles and the human body, you would know that muscles do not get stronger through lack of use. As a matter of fact, if you know anything about hospitalization or hospital care, you'll know that people who are bedridden often get muscle atrophy and they have to be rolled and moved and so forth. If you don't help that person, if you don't exercise their legs and arms and so forth, their muscles will atrophy. Have you ever been in a cast, whether it was a leg cast or an arm cast or whatever, for an extended period of time? And then you cut the cast off and you compared the limb that had the cast on it to the limb that didn't have the cast on it, whether it's a leg or an arm, and you realized that the one that was in the cast is demonstrably smaller than the one that wasn't. And why is that? Because the muscles have atrophied, they have shrunk, they have basically become next to useless because you weren't using them. Muscles don't get stronger by resting or relaxing or not using them. They get stronger by using them and stressing them and challenging them. When you get underneath a barbell and you let that weight, it pushes you down. It uses gravity and it pushes you down towards the floor, and then you push back against it. Or you lay on a bench and you push back against it. You are challenging your muscles. You're challenging them. Now, when it comes to a mind, if you do not stimulate your brain through reading, why do we teach children arithmetic? Why do we teach them mathematics? It teaches them to problem solve. Mathematics and arithmetic and so on and so forth challenges a child's mind. It forces them to think. It forces them to solve problems. It is exercise for their brains. When you pick up a piece of dead tree with the ink on it, all those words, things that we used to call books back in the old days when we wrote dinosaurs. I know kids today, they're like, what? Actual paper with ink on it? How do I use that? When you read, that is why I'm always recommending that everyone who listens to me actually reads. Take the time to get some dead tree. Put some dead tree in your hand and read it. Stimulate your brain. That is why we teach. That's why 200, 500, 1,000 years ago, the ancient Greeks and Romans and so forth realized that we need to teach our children mathematics. They need to read. They need to learn logic. They need to challenge their brains to strengthen them. But what have we seen during the last, I'd say quarter century or so? We've seen a demonstrable change in the way we teach and demonstrable change in the way we raise children. You have been conditioned to believe that the comfort of your child, not just physical comfort, but psychological comfort, is the most important thing that you could do. We've been taught that the more comfortable psychologically, mentally, and physically that you make a child, the better able to blossom and develop and create and yada yada. It's actually the exact opposite. We have removed all challenges from our children and tried to replace it with comfort, physical comfort and psychological comfort. And what has been the end result? Has the end result been a generation of children who grew up stimulated and creative and intelligent and motivated? No, it's been the exact opposite. We were told back in the late 90s that children were special and children needed to be treated specially. And we needed to remove any kind of, harsh challenges or criticisms. We had to stop keeping score in our kids' t-ball games and soccer games and little league games and so forth, because that challenge could stunt their creativity and their growth as individuals. What do we do to our kids? We pat them up like they're going into, like they're going to go to ride motocross when they're riding their bike down a sidewalk. And we put knee pads and elbow pads and plastic helmets on them. I'm surprised that we don't have mandatory mouth guards in some states, because we're afraid that they might fall. We're afraid that they might get dirty. Moms don't let their kids go out and rough and tumble and climb fences and fall out of trees and do all that stuff that we did when we were growing up, or at least when I was growing up. And I actually survived. Yes, my mom hated it when I climbed trees, but I did it anyway. I climbed trees. There was not a fence in my neighborhood that I did not climb over. And I tore my clothes, and I got dirty, and I skinned my knees. And I survived. Yes, indeed. I survived it. And I didn't grow up to be a whiny little millennial snowflake crybaby who needs to be sheltered from the world because his widow feelings are going to get hurt. We've raised a generation of weakness. And you say, well, what's wrong with being nice to people, Paul? What's wrong with, smoothing out the path? What's wrong with it is now we have a bunch of non-productive adult humans who are not at all ready or prepared to take on the challenges of the very real world that does not give one whit about their feelings. That is not how you grow and develop a productive community or a productive nation. We remove the challenge, and the end result is mental and physical weakness. Congratulations, America. So what is my solution to you? It's really easy. We need to go back to where we were 30 years ago, before the Clinton administration. I know many of you are like, oh yeah, I know. We need to go back when we challenged our children. Stop giving trophies for showing up. Start keeping score. Only the winners get ice cream. Really simple stuff like that. Force your children, make your children in your schools, if they are not learning math and arithmetic, in your high schools and colleges, if they're not learning logic and critical thinking, they're not challenging themselves. Challenge leads to strength. Lack of challenge leads to weakness. It's nature, it's simple, and it's time-honored. So, I wrote a whole book about it. It's called Team Honey Badger, Raising Fearless Kids in a Cowardly World. If you'd like to read more, it's really simple. You go to Amazon.com, and the book is called Team Honey Badger, Raising Fearless Kids in a Cowardly World. You can get the Dead Tree version. It's made on Dead Tree with ink, traditional stuff there. Or if you want to read it on your phone or your laptop or your iPad, you can get it as a Kindle version as well. So there you go. Drive on. I am your host, Paul Markle, and I'll talk to you again real soon.
Thank you for spending time with us today. To get show notes, submit a topic request, and for more from your host, Paul G. Markle, visit morningmindsetpodcast.com. That's morningmindsetpodcast.com. Please leave a review for this podcast on your favorite podcast player. We appreciate your time and effort, and we look forward to reading your honest feedback.